services, assistance with veterans issues, employment placement, as well as educational opportunities. If you need assistance or just want to help veterans by donating your time or services, contact them at info@patriothills.org. Again, that's info@patriothills.org. Visit patriothillsnewyork.com for more information about their services or how you can donate. Our veterans deserve no less. We can give it to them, and you can help.
You're listening to ESQ Resource Radio on the Bets on Media Network.
Frank Lippo, and with us today, we are lucky to have Mr. Jared Allen. And unfortunately, his partner, Stephen, was going to join us, but he had some clients that he had to take care of this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank.
How are you today?
Good.
Excellent. We had a little bit of time to, kind of go over things and get things set up, but we'll get right into it. Why don't you tell us about what your guys' practice is and the practice areas you get involved with and how long you've been doing it, Jared?
Sure. Primarily, we are a criminal defense law firm, and that is the majority of the work we're doing right now.
Okay.
But we have dabbled a bit in some family law matters, some personal injury matters, and we're always looking to learn a little bit about different areas of the law if we can help people within their related matters with their criminal cases. But yes, criminal defense is the primary focus of the firm. We've been doing this work almost exactly 2 years now. We opened the firm in April of 2013.
Wow, excellent. Congratulations. How's that been going for you so far?
Great. No, I could not be happier with the progress we've made and the people that we've helped so far.
Right. And both of you came from the, is it the state's prosecutor's office or?
We both worked at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
Okay.
Steve for about 6 years and me for a little over 5.
Okay. So that's where you honed your chops on one side of the law, and then
exactly.
as most attorneys grow and decide to either go work for the big firm at some point or decide to venture out on their own, that's where you guys found yourself. And
that's exactly it. No, I don't think either one of us started at the county attorney's office as prosecutors with the idea that we'd leave the office at some point. I think we both really enjoyed the work we did. So we look back fondly on that experience, and it was definitely great experience to get trained at an office like that and then get to do trials, which is the most important experience that we got.
To give you the experience for your clients then as you represent them of having a perspective, and not that necessarily gives you an advantage, it just gives you some insight on here's what they're generally looking to do, here's how we can help, here's what we would suggest, and those kind of things for your clients.
And that's a really good point that you just made there, is that we tell our clients all the time that having been former prosecutors, we do consider that a strength and an asset when we're looking at a case from a defense perspective. However, it certainly doesn't get us any favors. It doesn't get us any special treatment. But the good thing is that we both built nice reputations at that office, and so when we bring a request or a deviation in a case that we want a prosecutor to consider, they give us at least the credit for having been reasonable while we did the job.
Right. And what realistically would make sense versus just throwing something up there to see what happens type of a situation.
Exactly. And we try not to shoot for the moon when we know that wouldn't be something that we could have done as a prosecutor ourselves. So
right, and it's really just getting initially, and just tell us a little bit about from a standpoint of criminal defense and some of the examples of what that is as far as I'm pretty confident our audience has a pretty good picture of that, but I just want to make sure we're clear on those areas where you do help folks.
Absolutely. It's a much more varied practice area than even I think Stephen and I imagined when we started. We have done everything from a very small civil speeding offense, traffic type hearing, up to like a very serious class 2 dangerous crime against children felony trial.
Okay.
So, it really, that's the wide spectrum there.
Sure.
But everything in between as well. We handle a variety of different misdemeanor cases in the city courts around the valley. So those include, domestic violence cases, drunk and disorderly, DUI, pretty much anything that your average person can get in trouble for it can be found in the city courts around the valley. And then when you move up into superior court, you're talking, we call that big boy court. And,
Right.
you don't want to find yourself having a case there if you can help it. But then you're dealing with more violent crimes, drug crimes, property crimes, including theft, burglary, et cetera. So, there's really a wide range of criminal behavior that we see in our cases.
Sure.
So.
Sure. But it really emphasizes the point in having you or Stephen come along is rather than showing up for the knife fight without a gun, at least you got something and somebody to help you that can navigate through the system, because that to me is always the thing that I view as the overwhelming piece of it. It's what you don't know is going to get you, in the worst trouble. And the prosecutor's job is to represent the state and do the best they can from that standpoint. And doesn't mean they're not going to work with you as an individual, but when you do have representation, you certainly have a distinct advantage of somebody that understands the language of what we're doing here and what we can expect, right?
Absolutely. I think I can honestly say when people ask us, do I need an attorney? Should I hire an attorney? I think the best thing I can tell them is that if I or my partner ever found ourselves in a situation where we were facing criminal charges of any kind for any reason, we would probably hire an attorney as well.
Right.
More to remove us from the emotional interaction that I'm sure we would be feeling, in a situation like that, but also to have somebody that is looking at a case without the emotions, but with the experience of having been an attorney is really, I think you can't put a price on it. I know attorneys will put a price on it, and we have to as well. But
no question. But I think it becomes that again, going into that system and looking out for your own best interest. And that's what it really becomes in those situations. And it may be something, just a stupid situation that you found yourself in and escalated into something bigger and worse. And now you have to deal with it.
Exactly.
But it's having that confidence that somebody is, as I try to tell the audience and what they owe themselves and their family is to seek professional counsel. Doesn't mean you have to do anything, but you at least can step in that door and have a consultation with an attorney to get a perspective of, maybe even looking at the worst case scenario and even giving you an opportunity to say, this could be the best case part of this as well. But there's a lot of gray area in the middle of that you can't navigate necessarily on your own as just a regular person from my perspective.
I would definitely agree with that. One of the reasons we do free case evaluations at our firm is because it's an opportunity for us to explain some of these things to potential clients and show them kind of what the process is going to look like for them, and talk a bit specifically about their case, but more in specifically just about the process that they're about to undergo.
Right.
And is that something they want to do on their own? And I think a good example of that, we had a consult recently, probably like a month or two ago, for a misdemeanor case, city court domestic violence case, and after reviewing preliminary police reports in the consult, we really felt that there was a strong self-defense claim in that case, and that's a rare opportunity to really fight a case, and so that's the experience we bring, is being able to tell that story to a prosecutor on behalf of our client and get a result that normally you would not be able to get if you weren't represented. And that individual felt that that her case was something that, if she could just talk to the prosecutor, they'd understand, they'd dismiss it. And,
Right.
and to some extent that's true, but you need the right tools when you're going about that. And, so she did, try to handle it on her own. And, we're a bit pessimistic when it comes to
Sure.
that route. And, of course the prosecutor is not going to have that conversation with somebody in that situation. And, you're left with, well, we're a month into the case, and instead of having somebody with me, when I start it, I've got to start the process of finding an attorney all over again.
Right.
So,
that's a good point, because that's one of the other things that we talk about a lot on this show, about getting clear and across to people, because, till I started dealing a lot more and interacting with attorneys, here was the reality I found out, that in my crazy little world of Frank Lopo, I think everything should be black and white, right and wrong, and this is how it works.
sure.
And fortunately, and not unfortunately or fortunately, in the legal world, it's about the law. And that's what we don't know is, yes, you can find out and you can, get on the internet and dig into it and do that research. But it's, again, even though it's on the internet and it says this, it may not be exactly what your case is about. And just like you said, is, that's what I hear a lot of people say, the exact same thing. If I could just sit down in front of, the prosecutor or the judge and tell them that story, and you try to tell them, it's really not relevant to the deal. It's a great story. It's a compelling story.
Right.
And it certainly puts you in good favor, but that's not what this is about.
No, I think it's tough for people to digest the idea that that their moment in court really doesn't happen unless you go to trial.
Right.
The only way to tell your story prior to that is you typically through an attorney, because the prosecutor and you should not be talking.
Right.
Because, just like we tell clients who, as you and I were discussing before the show, often find themselves chatting with police and then winding up in trouble. The prosecutor is an arm of the same, part of the government that's not working in your favor necessarily in
Right.
a criminal case when you're on the other side. And so even a conversation where you think you're helping yourself
Right.
might actually not help you in the process.
No question. Or, in that same conversation of, today I didn't hit my wife, but, last week, well, yeah, I did knock her out then.
Right.
And then you're like, well, okay.
You've traded one
Right.
one for the other. Yes.
Right. So and that's just, that's the reality of it is, as we, like you said, we spoke before, and, you have the right to remain silent, use it. And unfortunately, people get compelled to want to tell their perspective and their side of the story. It's just when you're in that emotional impact of when everything is going on, what you think you're saying sounds great in your head, but as you're telling that story, it's going 500 different places. Plus the other person that's hearing the story, again, the police officer, his job is to get you to keep talking, get you to even dig that hole deeper if that's going to be the case. And it just, and believe me, the greatest thing I have in doing this show is I always get to talk about my 22-year-old who is my greatest piece of this, and he lives these stories and thinks that, gosh, Dad, I can just talk to the judge and tell him what happened.
Right.
And yeah, it sounds like that will work.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get that opportunity.
No, I think, you were talking a little bit about, how you believe, like, kind of in your world, things should be black and white, and, things should be right and wrong. And, that's definitely the way, I have gone through life up to my entering into law school, and that was definitely my perception of the law. And as hard as it was for me to digest that there are almost never any straightforward answers when it comes to the law, it's that much harder for someone being prosecuted in that situation. It's great to have academic or theoretical discussions among attorneys, and being able to constantly say, as my partner Stephen likes to say, well, it depends, you know,
Right.
and that's really the answer almost every time. Well, it depends.
No
and
question.
the variables are just so many that, you know, when it comes to an individual's case, it's never going to go the same way twice.
And you're exactly right. And then you haven't even added in, if you did go to trial and if it was a jury trial, it becomes a whole different aspect
Yeah, I mean,
of everything.
Lord knows who's going to be sitting in that box determining your fate. And
Right.
you know, one of the good examples of that was the trial we did last year. It was a case of child abuse, and definitely in my years as an attorney, the only time I felt like a client under the law was 100% not guilty of the charges against them.
Right.
But we still, you know, dealt with an uphill battle, because it's not just who sits in the jury box and whether they believe you or the state. They do take the instructions that the judge gives them very seriously,
Right.
and they're reading the charges that have been brought, and the elements of those charges that they have to, you know, find have been proven or not proven. And so they're getting a crash course in, you know, legalese and the law over maybe a couple of days, in most cases, a couple of weeks,
Right.
in a case like this. And you're hoping that they have the same understanding of the law as you would like them to when they're making their decision. But that's putting a lot of faith in people. And we know a lot of attorneys, and we as attorneys, and we're learning things every day.
Sure.
So there's no end to the education. So, you know, to have to put your fate in the hands of people that didn't go to law school, that, you know, maybe don't know the first thing about criminal law, it's daunting whether you're innocent or not. So,
Well, and also based on the information that's allowed into the trial and into the court that they get to see or hear about, versus, you know, again, as the law says X, and all the peripheral piece that led to X don't become part of the conversation.
Well, that goes back to, like you said, you know, people want to tell their story,
Right.
but they don't understand that they don't get to tell it in the normal form that, you know, most human beings are accustomed to. So when your story is broken up into answering questions in a certain way that, you know, is very broken up and choppy, and then you know that there are more details to the story that you can't share because maybe the judge made a pretrial ruling that we're not going to discuss a certain aspect of, you know, what happened. And so you know, it's a story that when a jury hears it, it's a very bizarre thing to hear, to try to fill it, because they're filling in the gaps, they're filling in the blanks themselves, even though you know what those blanks may be, and they're doing it without the benefit of you know, what you saw, heard, witnessed.
Right, because you can only, again, in that trial, you can only answer the question that was asked, and it may be a yes or no. It's not an open-ended tell us what happened, and you get that forum to tell the whole thing.
I mean, in a trial, more often than not, you're lucky to get out 2 sentences back to back before you're interrupted or asked another question.
Right.
Yeah.
Because on the prosecution side, they're looking to present this as you're guilty, and this is how this looks. And as the defense attorney, you're trying to get more of the story out there. And again, within the law, and that's what becomes the thing that I try to get people to understand. It's what's within the law, and not just, you know, you get to show up and the judge gets, you know, is going to listen to your story, and he's just like, oh, that's all fine and dandy, great to hear, but, you know, did you do this? And then you're dealing with that from that standpoint.
We tell people a lot, and again, having done both sides of this, I think is definitely beneficial. You know, as a prosecutor, you're going into a trial or into a case, and you have certain facts that prove the elements that are required to find guilt under the law. So all you want to do is introduce facts and evidence that support those. So it's not really about fleshing out the story, you know, in a normal manner. I mean, there's times where adding, you know, an emotional element and adding some background definitely helps your case as well as a prosecutor. But from a defense standpoint, you know, we feel like the prosecution puts on its case, and you've heard like a very streamlined version of whatever incident or events that led to, these charges. And so then it's our job to put on, other witnesses or to cross-examine the state's witnesses to bring out more of the, the kind of the fill in the blank information. And that can make a big difference, because the jury obviously, juries are people too, and they they want to hear the whole story as much as they can. So.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a break here, Jared. So why don't you go ahead real quick, give out your guys' contact information, and then after the break, we'll get back into some more fascinating discussion.
Great. Yes. No, my partner and I are with the law offices of Allen and Myrand. We're located at 2375 East Camelback Road. We're in Suite 600 on the southwest corner of 24th Street in Camelback. That's here in Phoenix, and you can call us at 602-620-6943.
All right. We will be right back after these messages.
Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey, everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
Veterans served us, now it's time we serve them. As a veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as a current military member deployed abroad, I would like to take a minute of your time to tell you about Patriot Hills of New York. Patriot Hills of New York is a nonprofit organization providing support to veterans and their families. They partner veterans in need with over 65 health and wellness organizations, community groups, as well as philanthropic foundations providing no or low-cost services. They've helped over 400 veterans through confidential referral services, assistance with veterans issues, employment placement, as well as educational opportunities. If you need assistance or just want to help veterans by donating your time or services, contact them at info@patriothills.org. Again, that's info@patriothills.org. Visit patriothillsnewyork.com for more information about their services or how you can donate. Our veterans deserve no less. We can give it to them, and you can help.
You're listening to ESQ Resource Radio.
Welcome back to the ESQ Resource Radio Show. I'm your host, Frank Lopel, and with us today is Jared Allen with Allen and Myrand Law Firm, and they're criminal defense attorneys. And as much as we were in the break and you brought up a interesting comment, and I will share a story about me versus my 23-year-old is I used to travel all over Arizona, and it was coming back from Morenci, Arizona one time, and about 5 p.m, and was probably doing about, I would say, somewhere around 85 to 95. And an officer came opposite direction, got me. And as soon as I saw him, I just pulled over, and he turned around and pulled back behind me. And the first thing he said was, "Good thing you pulled over." Because if I'd had to chase you, this would go a whole lot differently. And wrote me a ticket, and I had to go to court. And again, is representing myself in court and getting the opportunity to speak to the prosecutor or the I think it was a county attorney in Greenleaf County, And they misspelled my middle name. And so I said, well, my middle name is misspelled on the ticket. He said, yeah. And he said, well, did you do it? And I said, yes. He said, okay, pay the fine. and here I thought I was going to get to tell my whole story about, come on,
Right.
But, and then I get it. And that reality is, at the end of the day, did you do it?
Right.
Was the deal. It wasn't whether it was misspelled or they put the wrong license plate number down. Those things happen in life. And the question is, did you do it?
They happen more often than you think. And you're right. The weight that those mistakes carry are pretty minimal in most cases.
Right.
We a lot of DUI clients, are very meticulous about going through their police reports and pointing out that, maybe the, lime green color that the officer indicated was actually a forest green, paint
Right.
job. And, one letter on the license plate off, in the written citation. These aren't the things that are going to,
Right.
exonerate you or convict you at the end of the day.
Right. But it becomes that in that immediate mentality that this is why this is wrong, with not ever taking responsibility for the fact that, did you do it? And the reality is, in my case, yes, I did. And I was fortunate that I wasn't taken to jail that day just because I did what I did. But we lose sight of those things. And again, just like telling my 23-year-old, don't do it. That's the simplest way to not have these problems, is don't do it.
Well, I think, one of the things that people obviously always, I think, as part of being a criminal defense attorney, part of our job is defending our job.
Right.
and I can appreciate that, having been a prosecutor for, over 5 years. But I had a friend back when I first started at the county attorney's office who was a public defender. And he told me his answer to that question was always that, first of all, everybody deserves a defense, and everybody deserves, the best representation that, that is available to them, because both sides are typically overreaching. And really, this is about a negotiation, he said. And so, well, I'm not always trying to, exonerate somebody, or, everybody's, perception of a criminal defense attorney is they're trying to get you off. They're trying to get you out of trouble.
Right.
But it's really about minimizing damage in most of these cases. And so, he told me, I always feel like I'm negotiating the fairest resolution for the crime that they committed. He says, it's not often that I have somebody that I am really,
Right.
going to the wall for, with regards to innocence. It's really just about making sure that they're not treated unfairly, in proportion to the offense they committed.
Right.
And so that's what, I think that's, helped me temper expectations as a criminal defense attorney, and helps us temper clients' expectations, because we're never going to tell, well, first of all, we're never going to promise anything. And,
Right.
if I can tell you now, if a criminal defense attorney is promising you a result in a consult, then you should go to another consult.
Right.
Because there's just there's nothing for certain in this line of work. But I think that, when people have realistic expectations, like you said, if they have some sense of the responsibility they have within the, the crime that they're charged with, then we're able to make a lot better progress, because it's talking about, well, what's the appropriate result here, and how can we help you get to that result,
Sure.
versus maybe a worse outcome that the state may be offering you to begin with.
Right. Well, and I think that's a key word that you say. The fairness aspect of that is really what it's about. It's the leverage you have, and having representation gives you added leverage to specifically what the law is and what actually took place from that standpoint.
And in these situations, the state has a lot of power. I mean, they have the power, obviously, to bring these types of cases and charges against people, and then they have an incredible support system to help bring cases to trial, investigate cases further, and you being able to use law enforcement to do further investigation and interview people is a huge asset to them. And your average person charged with the crime does not have that arsenal at their disposal. So
Right.
even hiring, we think it's a benefit when you hire a smaller firm like ours, because we're very focused on the cases we work on. You know, we keep a limit as to the amount of work we bring in so that we can, do a good job and focus on the cases that we do have. And so, that's always been one of the benefits that we've tried to sell, our potential clients and our clients on, is that, you're working with two attorneys here. You're not going to be funneled through a system of, phone handlers and paralegals and assistants, and you're going to be talking with people that are up to date on your case, and that's a huge benefit when you're going up against the state, is having somebody that's familiar with the case, familiar with the law, and able to, maybe it's not going to be a full exoneration in a case, but it's going to give you the best chance to get that story you want to tell to the prosecutor in a way that helps the prosecutor get to where you want to go. And that's what our job really is, to take your story, the legal issues in your case, and formulate them or explain them to the prosecutor in a way that we know they can do something with this.
Exactly right. And not make it the emotional attachment that you as an individual have to it personally. And again, I get it in those situations. It is very personal, and it is your life, and it's your situation. But then when it comes to the standpoint of the legal aspect of it in the court, it takes on a different, as you see a lot that, well, they didn't hear this or they didn't hear that. And again, as you can say to them, that's not relevant to what we're trying to do here. And here's why. And again, re-explaining it. So, and it sounds like you guys take a very personal approach with your clients, and which is good. And not that you're, like some of these mills that, the first time you meet the attorney is when everything's on the line. And
sure. No, we joke a lot, that sometimes we feel like we're more invested in the cases than even the clients in some of the cases, and that's because we know what they're facing and what the potential consequences are, and having seen certain scenarios and outcomes in this line of work, we know when to be worried and when to be optimistic. And so when we're telling you, that we need you to be in court on time, or we need you to get this type of information to us to help with your case, they're doing that for a reason.
Right.
So.
Well, and it's always fascinating, even with our clients, it becomes a very nonchalant, hey, you said you had this. Well, yeah, we've got it from the standpoint of everything we can do. But when we do need you to provide us information without saying we need it quickly, always assume the sooner you get it to us, the better, versus, I'll get it to you when I get it to you type of a thing, which again becomes fascinating to me, because usually a lot of times when clients come to us is when they've been served and they've got a summons and they've got 20 days to respond. And their urgency is now, I need to come in and see you, Frank. I need to take care of this. What are we doing? And then as soon as you quell the fire and let them know that this is part of the process, it's not the end of the world, here's the next steps in the deal, they just, sit back and do nothing. And you're thinking,
right,
it's still important.
Right.
And you have to emphasize that a lot to people in the sense of
no, hiring an attorney definitely doesn't remove you from the action.
Right.
You still have to be a participant in the process. But the thing is, now you're doing it with some direction and some idea of what information you do need to get and what goals you have, instead of just questions about what's going to happen from here.
Right. Because as a normal person, all that is so daunting in the sense of the unknown for the regular consumer, that in our case where we deal with clients with debt, I truly believe in a lot of cases, if there were debtor prisons, a lot of our clients would line up to go, because I need a couple of years off anyway. If that's all I got to do to get rid of this, I'm in. But that's one side of it. The reality is, in all these cases, and even what you do, people want to do the right thing. It's just the circumstances get presented, they deal with something, make a bad choice, and now they have to take care of it from that standpoint.
Absolutely. No, I think one of the other benefits to having an attorney, other than someone that understands the law or has this experience, is most people are not repeat offenders. Most people have not been through this process,
right.
And so some of the biggest questions people have is, where am I going? What am I doing? How does a hearing work?
Right.
How does going to court? What type of experience is that? We had a couple clients when we first started the firm that were just concerned that there was going to be news cameras and there was going to be all of this type of stuff, and we tried to assure them that if your case has not been on the news, it's probably not going to be on the news now.
Right.
And that not everybody in every courtroom is videotaped or put on TV. So just people's perceptions of what they're about to walk into can be very anxiety inducing, and we can help quell some of that for you even before you start going to your first court hearing.
Right.
And so I think that's another aspect of our job that we didn't necessarily anticipate that we actually really enjoy, is being able to say, hey, listen, this is exactly how the court process is going to go. These are the types of timelines you're looking at, and giving people some idea of what they're in for, instead of just that big question mark out in the future.
No question. And I think that is the resounding peace of mind people are looking for when they come to an attorney, is just walk me through and because you have in your mind worst case of everything.
Sure.
At least I do in that situation, that it's never something I want to be involved in, because the outcomes can be so uncertain just based on circumstances and situations. So just do the right thing and keep your nose clean. But when you're faced with that situation, seek professional counsel, get with somebody that can just sit down with you, explain the process to you, and give you the facts, listen to your story, and then move forward with you and help you through that process.
No, absolutely. Okay.
Excellent. Well, we've got a break coming up here. We got about 3 minutes before the next break. So go ahead and give out your contact information one more time.
Sure. Again, it's I'm Jared Allen, my partner Stephen Myron. We're the law offices of Allen and Myron, located at 2375 East Camelback Road, Suite 600, here in Phoenix, right across the street from the Biltmore. And you can reach us at 602-620-6943, or you can also email us at yourlegalteam@amlawaz.com.
Excellent. And you guys provide a free consultation to sit down with a client and review their case.
We in any new situation, we'll sit down with you for free. We'll give you about 30-45 minutes, and we'll go through kind of the general facts of your case and the timeline that you're looking at, and we'll talk about what services we may be able to provide, and we do all that for free.
And you guys are always available, obviously, because of your clientele, and things happen all hours of the day and night.
That's absolutely true. One of the things you'll find is for business hours, you're going to call the office. Our secretaries will forward calls on to us, but they'll be forwarded on to either myself or Steven. You're not going to deal with like a secondary level of employee. It's always going to be talking to an attorney about your case. But after hours, those phones are forwarded to myself and Steven, and we handle calls 24 hours a day. It's not unusual to show up at the jail for an initial appearance at 11 o'clock at night. It's something that's part of our job, and
sure,
we're happy to do it.
Okay, excellent. Well, we will take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue this fascinating discussion. Thanks very much.
Veterans served us. Now it's time we serve them. As a veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as a current military member deployed abroad, I would like to take a minute of your time to tell you about Patriot Hills of New York. Patriot Hills of New York is a nonprofit organization providing support to veterans and their families. They partner veterans in need with over 65 health and wellness organizations, community groups, as well as philanthropic foundations providing no or low-cost services. They've helped over 400 veterans through confidential referral services, assistance with veterans issues, employment placement, as well as educational opportunities. If you need assistance or just want to help veterans by donating your time or services, contact them at info@patriothills.org. Again, that's info@patriothills.org. Visit patriothillsofnewyork.com for more information about their services or how you can donate. Our veterans deserve no less. We can give it to them, and you can help. Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552. or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
You're listening to ESQ Resource Radio on the Vets On Media Network.
Welcome back to the ESQ Resource Radio Show. I'm Frank Lopa, your host, and with us today is Jared Allen. He's a criminal defense attorney, and he has been sharing with us a lot of good insights and how they help people. And in the break, Keegan was just asking, and you'd mentioned about the Veterans Court, which I think is again an area especially relevant to our audience in respect to those things. And you'd indicated, Jared, that most of your experience in that was on the prosecutor side, but you at least got exposure to it and appreciation for how, the court, at least at that time, and the judges at that time had an appreciation and a better understanding in dealing with veterans and some issues they had. So it wasn't always the, as you stated, the gun-wielding crazy man that came back from the war and is creating all this havoc.
No, absolutely. I was fortunate to, as a prosecutor, deal with a large variety of cases and people here in Maricopa County, and the veteran community there's a large veteran community here in Maricopa County, obviously. But some of the unique issues that I was presented with were getting a non-traditional, understanding of like what we call, PTSD, post-traumatic stress, getting an education in that and really kind of understanding it a little bit better instead of just, I think a lot of people just think of PTSD as, people are having flashbacks. People are, right. Overwhelmed by the experiences that they've had. And it's not just that simple. Right. And so, it's akin to having, almost like an anxiety disorder. Once you're back and things aren't as high intensity and high stress. And so kind of understanding how those types of incidents are triggered definitely made us, more aware of how these situations that we were being presented with in the form of, criminal charges had come about. And so, one of the things that I think has been really beneficial, from the criminal defense standpoint, is being aware of those issues. And when we meet with potential clients, those are questions that we can ask as well. If we know that they've had that experience in their background, we can talk to them a bit about, whether they've had any other incidents or issues like this before they found themselves in this trouble. And that's information that is very helpful to present to a prosecutor, because there is a great education at the county attorney's office, especially about those types of issues when you're dealing with those types of cases.
Well, and I think that's again important from that standpoint of the history of the person and relevant to the situation of is this been an ongoing second, third time situation. Certainly a little different than, like you said, as a first time person that comes into your office and this is all new to them. The people with the old hat experience, I'm always fascinated that they're not afraid of the system, and that's just the way it is. It doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
It's just that they just have a different thought process and attitude in regard to how the system works and what they're expecting, towards somebody who's never been in a situation and it's the first time they've had a DUI, and they just had it always seems to go that either, as I talk to my friends and people, that, gee, I just had 2 glasses of wine, or I was totally drunk and had no business driving situations. It's never that in between person. It's one extreme to the next.
No, and that's perfect analogy for dealing with these issues as well. Your common perception is of like we said earlier, kind of like a flashback gun wielding type of almost like a non-human behavior,
right?
And or you're a perfectly sane and composed person, and there's just so much going on in between there,
right?
And so it's nice to be able to have a little bit of experience with that and kind of be able to present that to someone who might not have experience with that. And then we found that we've been doing some specialized work now with law enforcement with the Fraternal Order of Police and representing different police officers in potential like criminal or internal investigations. Okay. So that's given us a little bit different perspective on the job we do now and versus the job we did before with our relationship with police officers. But we see those same issues as we see with a lot of military,
right.
former military or current military individuals. Post-traumatic stress occurs in that job as well, and has an impact on the way they interact with the community and the things that they've seen or been exposed to. And so that I think just in general actually leads nicely into just the idea that we as a country are becoming much more educated just about mental illness, right. and the different anxiety disorders and mental disorders that people deal with. And it's becoming, I think, less stigmatic in the sense that everybody deals with these things at some point in their life.
Right.
I think everybody has spent some time being what we'd call depressed or anxious, and it just depends what level that arises to, as to whether you need help to deal with those types
right.
of issues. But I think that everybody is starting to kind of see, how those issues can impact people, how those issues can lead to, situations that we find people in terms of clients. And, I think that education is really important.
Well, and it seems like, because there's a lot of people that are very high functioning in those situations, mm-hmm. that as they always say, that, gosh, the neighbor was such a nice guy, I had no idea he was that crazy. But in reality, as he's out in the world, he's not crazy. It's just that one trigger point, whatever that is, sets somebody off, and now you got to deal with it. And in a lot of cases, you always have that one person that can calm you down or whatever the situation is. And if they're not in proximity to the situation, then it becomes an issue that now you're involved or the police are involved, and now it has to be dealt with from that standpoint.
Exactly. No, and I think both Stephen and I are grateful for the exposure we've had with Veterans Court and with in this line of work, you do find that a lot of crimes are committed as a result of people not behaving like themselves.
Right.
And so the more we learn about those behaviors, I think, the more we see it in cases where maybe even the individual hasn't realized the issues that they have yet, or hasn't had the means to address them. And,
right.
And so sometimes criminal charges wind up being the best thing for someone. It gets them in touch with people that can help them going forward. And I mean, obviously, I'm certainly not recommending that as a therapeutic means, but your life can change for the better despite finding yourself in a situation like this. And we've seen that a lot.
Well, we're all in a high level of denial anyway.
This is true.
It is fascinating that that's what we often tell our clients is that our biggest competitor is denial, is because people have hundreds of $1,000s of debt, and you talk to them and they're just thinking, well, if I can get another loan, I can fix all this. And you think, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, no, it's
I mean, logically, I get what you're saying, but if you stepped outside of yourself and heard somebody say that to you, you would just say, what are you thinking? What is going on in your mind that having more credit is not the solution to your problem? It's getting a grip on the reality of what you have to deal with. And I think, that may be some of the conversation you have at some point with your clients of getting that grip of reality. And it's not the end of the world. It's just where we're at today. And here's what we're going to deal with. And I'm always about the accountability as an individual for yourself. If we can just start there and each of us can get more accountable to ourselves about what we're doing, it's going to make things a lot easier versus.
No, I totally agree. I think that's like I said, we're not looking to necessarily have people exonerated in situations where accountability is appropriate.
Right.
I was raised to be responsible for the things I said and did, and whether that was good or bad, there could be rewards or punishments. And
right.
I definitely think that I believe in a in a fairness and a karma type of situation.
Right.
Like if you've done something that you're going to have to pay up, and whether that's financial, whether that's with a conviction or jail time or prison time.
Sure.
But again, there's an appropriate punishment to fit your crime, and
no question. And pain is a good teacher, and pain can be not necessarily physical. It can be financial pain or those things.
Sure.
Just like with, that's certainly the deterrent in DUI situations, that your initial, experience in that is fairly costly, and the more you do it, the more it's going to cost you.
No, and any type of criminal situation that you find yourself in, it's, again, like I said, it can be the best or the worst thing to happen to you. You might lose some people in your life that don't appreciate the behavior that you've exhibited, and you might find out who your real friends are and who sticks by you and who understands the situation that you're in and is willing to work with you going forward. And like you say, in a situation like DUI, we see this all the time. A lot of the clients we deal with, I don't characterize them necessarily as criminals, but people that have made mistakes.
Right.
DUIs, cases where you're in the the bar fight or whatever it may be. These aren't always examples of people repeating bad behavior, always getting into trouble. These are things that people every day can find themselves in these situations under the right circumstances. And so, if you're willing to take responsibility for what you've done, but you hire an attorney and try to navigate that process, then you do the least amount of damage to the either the life you've built or the life that you're building, or the future that you have, and you can learn from that and move on, and it does not have to be the end of the world for you.
Excellent. Well, all great points. Question for you, Jared. What got you into the law? What was the thing that compelled you to think this was what I wanted to do?
Well, if I am honest with myself, there was definitely a moment that solidified it for me. And I laugh about it because it was after my freshman year in college, or right before I left for my freshman year in college. I went to see the movie A Time to Kill, and which was based on the John Grisham novel. And I went primarily at the time because I was very much infatuated with Sandra Bullock. And but I remember at the end of it, Matthew McConaughey as the defense attorney for Samuel L. Jackson's character, and he gives a very moving speech to the jury about why they should acquit him of the murder of the murderer of his daughter. And while I certainly, don't advocate the vigilante justice, I remember just being in awe of kind of the story he was able to tell and like the emotion that he was, evoking as he addressed the jury. And I just thought, like, if someday I have the opportunity in some case to have a jury really understand, like, and appreciate the depths of emotion of a situation through just what I've been able to tell them, like, that's the type of work I want to do. And, and I remember, now my partner laughs, Steve laughs, since Matthew McConaughey had such a renaissance here in the last couple of years of his career. I said, it's all come around to the time with our firm's success. So we give him some credit for that as well. But no, I remember as a prosecutor, I had a case that was a very emotional case and a very just awful scenario. And I tried the case with my boss at the time, who's probably one of the best, if not the best, attorneys that I've known. And so I was doing it, more or less as, kind of proving myself, through this case. And I was given the task of giving the opening statement. And it was about a 30-40 minute case. And I was really passionate about it. And at the end of it, I had jury members crying, and it was the appropriate response given the scenario. And I sat down, and he had written on a legal pad, much like the one in front of me right now, in all caps, "Great job." And it felt like kind of a full circle moment, where I knew that we were doing a good thing, and that this was like the level of emotion required to get to the result. And and I was glad that that I had seen that kind of through. And then now I feel like we've done that in other cases since, but knowing that we're capable of that type of work and that type of result, I think Stephen and I are really proud to be able to do that job for people. So.
Well, and I think that becomes the one unknown as again, attorneys as a whole get a bad rap as sharks and always looking for the buck and billable hour and those kind of things, and not the investment that you have personally with your clients, and especially in your area of the law, because it does become compelling that as you're not necessarily, and you stated in several occasions in this interview that it's about the fairness of the situation of not that, my client's completely innocent of doing nothing and never did it. But yeah, this happened. Right. I mean, make no mistake, something had happened to bring us to this point in time. And now how are we going to deal with this to make sure that things are accounted for, that people are held accountable, one, from if the law was broken, what's being done, and then two, as far as how do we move through this? And I think that's where, again, people don't value, and you can't put a price on that as far as a service for an attorney that you can't, because that would be, I think, where you'd ring it up and make the money and say,
I mean, like when we started this firm, obviously, the idea of going into business for ourselves, of being our own bosses, and of handling cases the way we wanted to handle it were a strong motivation. But I think one of the most rewarding things that we've found out of it, outside of just being able to do this job and still be doing it 2 years later, is that we're getting great results. We're getting results that we're happy with, that our clients are happy with. It's always great when, as you said, when a client takes responsibility for something and we've put them in maybe into a plea resolution or to some type of resolution where, hey, they may be doing some time, paying some fines, having a conviction, and they're still happy with the work we've done. Right. And that's not to say that happens in every case. I mean, we have, we've had lots of cases dismissed. We've had acquittals, I mean, some incredible results, but in the situation where we're able to work to get to, like you said, that just and fair result, usually, the clients are going to be happy that we did all we could to get to that place. So.
Excellent. Well, it's been a great hour. We really appreciated having you on, and you shared a lot of great insight. And I would encourage anybody in that situation, and more importantly, I think it's more about if you have a family member that has a need for Jared or Steven in working with them, to reach out to them, contact them. You can reach their office at 602-620-6943. As Jared stated, they provide a 30 to 45-minute consultation to kind of walk you through the situation, help, one, you wrap yourself around, here's what's at stake. Here's how we see it. And having that experience from the prosecutor piece of it, as well as the defense representation, I think is a tremendous advantage in being able to walk the client through the reality, good and, or good and better, I guess, from that standpoint of here's what we're dealing with. So go ahead and give out your contact information one more time. But like I said, I encourage you to reach out to these guys. That they really, provide a valuable service. Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, yeah, I definitely appreciate that, Frank. And again, you can contact us at 602-620-6943 or email us at yourlegalteam@A as in Allen, M as in Myron, lawaz.com. And our offices are at 2375 East Camelback Road, Suite 600 here in Phoenix. And, we are a full service 24-hour firm. So give us a call and we'll see if we can help you out.
And you can also check them out on the website at amlawaz.com, correct?
Right.
And just give you some insight, because again, in all these cases, it becomes personal. And I think, based on what Jared has shared today is they make it personal for their clients as well. So
absolutely.
Want to thank everyone very much. Next week, our guest is going to be someone we've had on before, Krista McMurdy, and she'll be talking about a new aspect of her practice and what she's doing on the family law side of things. So we look forward to talking with everyone next week. Thanks very much.
Thanks.